All right, this one we've covered a staffing firm before, maybe two, but this one is another franchise in the staffing industry called Nextaff. So they're a little bit newer to franchising. I think they started franchising in 2004, but then rebranded or like was acquired in 2016 and went through some changes. Yeah. So this one is a little bit less developed than other franchise systems, but the numbers are really strong. So they have 4 corporate-owned territories and 31 individual franchise units. And the investment range for this one is between 126,000 and 161. A lot of that is going to include, you do have a small office space where you're going to meet with your team and then, potential employees. So Nextaff, I didn't describe the business model, but it's basically a staffing company that has temporary staffing services, temp to hire like permanent placements, and then permanent placement like one-time lump sum staffing. So, and they serve 3 different verticals. So healthcare, IT, and then commercial, which would be like commercial/industrial jobs. What's interesting is Nextaff only recommends you start with one vertical. So you're basically paying for one of those verticals, and then you can upgrade to another one over time. But they want you to get launched and get your like feet wet with just one of those. So usually, from what I understand, it's either like commercial or IT. Healthcare is kind of like a whole different animal, but you can get started with any one of those, and then that's a way to scale within the same franchise in the future. So, they want owners that are going to be good at networking, doing business development, getting out, meeting with business owners that need staffing services. So you're meeting with small and medium-sized businesses in your territory. These businesses aren't big enough to have internal HR departments. They don't have the time or money to do it on their own. So they're outsourcing their hiring to you. And so they may come to you and say, we need 6 temporary hires for this 6-month period. Please go out and find these people with these qualifications. And then the recruiters on your team go out and recruit, interview, and hire those people. And then, they're going to be on your payroll, but you're marking up their hourly rate to your end customer. So it's nice because you can get that. It is kind of a recurring revenue. It is a lot of, there's basically the 2 main parts is like sales and business development. And then you need somebody to do the recruiting side, or vice versa. If you don't want to do the recruiting or the sales side, you can do the recruiting side. So the financials for this one, if we scroll down, they're pretty strong. So this is from, so let's see here. Top 25%. Let's see, the average revenue for their top 25% is 5.2 million. And then they break down like gross profit percentage. So it's interesting because like I'm interested to learn more about this business in particular, like where you can get net wise, but like, so the gross profit's pretty low because that includes like all of your payroll expenses for all the temporary employees you have on your team, and then includes all your overhead and everything like that. So pretty big numbers. And then like if you scroll down a little bit more, okay, so they do like lower to mid, bottom. I mean, they're still pretty good. Like lower mid 25% is still 1.78 million average sales, but then the gross profit goes down, 26% there. So this is one I honestly like. I need to learn more about like the end like net profit potential for this one, but I don't know. Tariq, are you familiar with how that works in terms of the staffing industry?
Yeah, well, what's interesting here is that, and I was trying to make sense of it. So, okay, so if their total gross profit, right, is 998,000, um, direct labor and then payroll burden. So I'd have to ask, like, want to know from the franchisor what that means. But what I'm assuming that means, guys, this is just an assumption, is that okay? So their gross profit for the business is 998, right? And then I would imagine that their individual payroll burden for their business is 571. So then if you subtract 998 minus 571, you're left with 427 to then pay the remaining expenses of the business. I mean, after your payroll burden, I mean, you have your office expense, and then, I mean, in that sort of business, there's not meant much more expenses after that.
Yeah.
So that's how I would imagine. I would imagine it's the gross profit number minus the payroll burden, which is interesting because when you look at some of the lower performers, like it looks like there's still meat on the bone.
Yeah.
Like they're because if their gross profit is 254 and their payroll burden's only 51, there's still 200K there, and then for other expenses, etc. So I again, I could be wrong in the way that I'm estimating that, but I think it would make sense.
I think you're right. Yeah, I was confusing myself as I was talking through it and reading it, but I think yeah, I think you're definitely right. Payroll burden is probably your internal recruiting staff that you have in the office that are, recruiting all your employees. So, yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, it's a pretty good number. Yeah. So, um, any notes at the bottom? I think, yeah, I've probably covered you can start with one of those three verticals. Oh yeah, pretty important note. The corporate does um, do a lot of the payroll services for their franchisees, which is nice, and then a lot of the HR and legal stuff. So that's pretty nice to not have to worry about that. That's a pretty big value add. And then you do have reduced royalties as you get into your business, which is nice. And then they have like, proprietary system called X Factor. I'm curious to hear how different it is compared to other, staffing companies, but it looks like they do different methods to screen potential employees. I like the idea of doing cognitive ability tests. Tariq, you and I do that with our employees, and we're big into that stuff. So I think that's just kind of table stakes, in my opinion, at this point of hiring people. But yeah, I mean, it's a good business. I think it's one, again, if you, similar to the first, like Enviromaster, just a different industry. If you're good at B2B sales and you want to scale something, I think this is a potentially good business for you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one, and I mean, to be able to have the opportunity to produce those sort of numbers at a, total investment of 126 to 161, right? And kind of to Kevin's point before with the resales, I mean, you just need 20% down for this for an SBA loan. So you're talking, although staffing is different, right? Is this SBA eligible? This,
I think you can. Yeah, I think it's still just 20% down. Yeah.
because I know some of the staffing companies are not SBA eligible depending upon when the franchisors, I think there's a situation where the franchisor technically is the one employing them. I think that's with Express, right?
Yeah, maybe you might be right.
Yeah.
Gonna look it up.
So I don't want to make things too complicated here, but anyways, if you are interested in this specific franchise and you want to see if it's available in your territory, you can go to franchiseempire.com/check territory. Guys, keep in mind there's this little gnat in here. It's annoying the heck out of me. It keeps flying on my face. Um, keep in mind that if you get value out of these newsletters that we do, part of how our business supports ourselves, pays our team, and how we generate revenue is by making these introductions to the franchisors. So all that we ask is if you're interested in, one of these franchises that we talk about, just give us the courtesy of reaching out to us so we can, make the introduction. If you kind of go behind and just go on your own, then I don't know, it's not really cool. That's how I feel about it. But now you know. If you don't know, it's just an honest mistake. But if you know, then it's not cool. So, anyways, we'd love to just support you and be able to provide resources to you in the process as well. And so, if you want to see not just if you just want to see overall what specific franchises are available in your area, again, you can do that for free. Set up a free conversation and call, and go to franchiseempire.com/check territory, and then we can help you out with that process.